We all make mistakes. It's part of being human. Sometimes these mistakes are benign and sometimes they cause damage, either for ourselves or for someone else. What happens when you mess something up on someone's wedding day? Let's talk about it. Let's get this out of the way from the start. If you make a mistake, you have to own up to it and make it right. We're not kids with crumbs on our faces and shirts saying it wasn't us who took the cookie. You can't dig yourself out of a hole. You can only climb your way out. And the way to do that is with honesty, humility, and an authentic attempt at repair. If you did do something wrong, and let's be real, you know when you did, don't try to sweep it under the rug. Don't try to pretend it wasn't your fault if it clearly was. Sometimes all you can do is throw yourself on your sword and do your best to fix it. Now, there are mistakes and there are mistakes. If someone on the day asks you to get a photo of an uncle you've never met before while you're in the middle of photographing the couple's first dance, which once happened to me, maybe you could be forgiven for forgetting you were asked to do so. If you get the wedding date wrong, you have some explaining to do. While I was coming up with and preparing this video, I was thinking, should I admit my mistakes publicly? My friends and colleagues will see this, and future clients might as well. Given the tens of people who have seen my video, though, I have a little security through obscurity. That initial thought was then followed up with, well, this is why I'm making these videos in the first place. To be honest about my practices and philosophies, and to try and help other people, especially photographers who have either been doing this for a while or who are just dipping their toes into it. I have a lot of examples of other people having messed up, things I've seen personally or read online, and there are lessons to be learned in all of them. The worst example I can personally recall was a DJ I worked with many years ago. I had never worked with him before and have never worked with him since. I don't think he had done many weddings because he acted unprofessionally and selfishly throughout the day. For starters, he had a little point-and-shoot digital camera that he used while running around during the ceremony, getting in my way and standing in front of guests. I know plenty of DJs who take their own photos because they too have to feed the social media beast. They need images for their website and their feeds because a lot of photographers don't help out their colleagues like that. By and large, it's rarely an issue because they stay in the back and are unobtrusive. They just stay out of the way and in general don't make it about them. This guy wasn't that. I was fuming a bit after the ceremony because he did compromise my coverage. He came up to me after the ceremony, all proud, showing me his little camera and how these photos were going to be a great gift for the couple. With the benefit of experience, I've learned not to be so outwardly snarky now, but at the time I said, that's great. When the reception starts, I'm going to get a boombox and a Mr. Microphone and start making announcements and playing music while you're working, as a gift to the couple. He looked at me blankly, trying to figure out what I meant because he didn't get it at all. He continued to take photos all night, and when I saw them online the next day, they were pictures of people's backs and of the ceiling, and 80% of them were out of focus. Just awful and unnecessary. But what makes this story my most egregious example is that when the couple was being introduced into the reception, he proudly announced, "Let's give a big round of applause to the new bride and groom," and he started clapping and playing music, and the rest of the room fell silent because the couple were two brides. I don't know how they kept their composure, but they did, and they seemed determined to have a good time. Later in the evening, when making some announcement or another, the DJ made the same mistake again. Cringeworthy doesn't even begin to describe it. But Seth, you might be wondering, what can you share about taking responsibility for your mistakes? So yes, I'm going to share some personal examples of times I messed up. One time I was photographing a wedding at a venue that had high ceilings and skylights and chandeliers. In my enthusiasm for quickly changing my lighting to favor a different side of the room, I began moving one of my light stands from one corner of the room to the other. I had for years made sure to remind my assistants to lower light stands before moving them so they don't accidentally catch on anything higher up. Here I was not taking my own advice and just picked up the light stand thinking it would be no problem because of the high ceilings. I wasn't paying attention to where the chandeliers were, and the flash on top of the stand caught one of them and sent glass shards crashing to the ground around me. It's a wonder I didn't get hit by any of them, and I shudder to think what would have happened if one had hit a guest. This made a big sound, and everyone turns to look, and there I am on full display holding a 9-foot light stand in the air, the top of which is still inside a chandelier. I managed to untangle the flash from the glass that was still hanging from the ceiling, and the venue coordinator came over to start cleaning up the broken glass. While I'm lowering the light stand and apologizing to the coordinator profusely, I saw that as she was picking up the glass, it was cutting her. So yeah, now she's bleeding on top of everything else. I was embarrassed and mortified, and while it could have been a lot worse, this was pretty bad. As soon as I got home, I composed an email to the coordinator explaining that I should have known better, because I should have, and I regret what happened and that she got cut. Then I sent the biggest edible arrangement I could to her office for Monday morning. She emailed me back in the afternoon saying accidents happen and it's not the first time someone had done this, but it is the only time anyone had sent an apology chocolate-covered fruit basket. So while I was completely in the wrong, I owned up to it and did my best to apologize. Another issue I've dealt with is delivering someone's wedding past the deadline that I give myself to have the photos in their hands. I live in New England, and fall is the busiest time of the year for weddings here. I have weddings almost every weekend, sometimes double headers and sometimes triple headers. All those weddings are due about the same time, and if I'm not attentive to my schedule, sometimes it takes longer than I anticipate to complete. Plus, there's all the life stuff that happens in between weekend wedding days, like laundry and grocery shopping and dishes, not to mention maintaining relationships with the spouse or partner, your friends, and the family that doesn't live with you. Sometimes you get run down and feel under the weather, and you lose a little time here and there. If you find yourself in the weeds and that happens, well, you fall a little behind. Sometimes I'll proactively contact a couple and let them know post-production is taking a little longer than I anticipated, and then I'm really sorry for the delay. To make it up to them, I'll give them more photos in their album or a credit for prints. After the wedding day, there's not much else I can think of to do. I know that when I make use of someone else's services and they can't deliver on what they said they were going to, it's frustrating. Being a business owner myself, I recognize that sometimes people aren't always in the best mood when you deliver this information, and sometimes they take it out on you. I know it makes me feel better when that person or company proactively does something to try and make it better. I think owning up to the mistake and getting in front of it goes a long way with most people. If someone has a complaint, they largely want to be listened to, and the way to turn that around and get them back on your side, to the degree that you might be able to, is to do something extra to make up for it. I don't know what DJs, for example, can do once the day is gone, but photographers and videographers continue their relationship with a couple after the wedding day is done, so there are products we can provide if need be. What to do, though, when there's a complaint but it's about something that didn't really happen or is worse from their perspective than yours, or if the complaint is from someone who just likes to complain. I once had a couple reach out to me after a wedding to say they thought I was providing a specific number of photos from the wedding, and I provided fewer than that number that they had in their head. I had to be cautious in wording my reply to this because I've never in my career guaranteed a specific number of photos. I give a ballpark based on the number of hours I'll be with them on the day, and if there are 1 or 2 photographers. But because weddings are by their nature uncontrolled events, I don't have quotas nor do I have limits. I don't want to include lesser quality or redundant photos just to come up to a certain number. Something that's happened a couple of times is I've had the mother of the bride or the mother of a groom complain about my second photographer. In both of these examples, each mom was in the bridal suite on their respective children's wedding days during prep, so I had direct experience hearing them complain pretty constantly about everything. They expected there would be champagne or other drinks in the room for them, or the flowers didn't look the way they thought they should, or the bride's dress or makeup was lacking in some way. Both of these moms complained to me later that they felt the people working with me were unprofessional or rude. I have a very select number of people who I have work with me. I'm picky about the personalities and talent that work on my team. I knew with certainty the assessment I was being given was off base. The thing is, to them it was completely accurate and their complaints were completely valid. So I listened to what they had to say, apologized for the perceived mistreatment, and told them I would address it directly. In both cases, these moms seemed satisfied that their concerns were listened to and that someone was going to do something about it. I eventually brought this up with my seconds at the time to get their take. In both cases, they told me, yeah, during portraits, those moms were trying to direct the groups themselves and pose other family members and were arguing with the venue staff and with the coordinator. So this is a case where you have to consider the source of the complaint. This might be a customer service hot take, but not every complaint is legitimate. It is relative though, so the issues are real to the people making them. And even though these people aren't directly my clients, the couple always is, you don't want anyone to walk away thinking less of you or of your work or of your business. The customer is always right as far as the customer is concerned, but that might not be the reality of a specific situation. Again, people want to be listened to and to have their voices heard. Some people want to make themselves the center of attention, and this is how they do it. But as the business owner and the person who has been hired to perform a set of services, you can't just write them off. If they know their concern has been addressed to their satisfaction, they'll walk away happy. And in both of these cases, they did just that. One last example from my past is from a couple who was very private and didn't want photos to be used on social media. I don't get that request often, but when I do, I take it seriously. Sometimes one or both of the couple are a teacher or a doctor, and their private lives need to stay private. Sometimes there's a custody battle, and one of the parents doesn't want photos of the children on display. All perfectly reasonable. In the middle of fall wedding season, sometimes you're just trying to get work out the door and stay on track with everything in your queue. Despite having written notes to myself and putting post-it notes on my monitor to remind me, I forgot and posted the photos as I normally do. I got a call from the groom within the hour because I had also sent them an email letting them know their photos were ready, personality. And he tore into me because I had put the photos online despite having it in writing that I wouldn't do so. I happened to be in front of my computer when he called, and when he started in on me, I grabbed the paperwork and realized that I had in fact messed this up. I just forgot. While he was talking, I went online and removed the photos so that when he had to say, I let him know I had just taken the photos down. The damage was done, so I didn't know if there was anything I could do to make it right other than just having done what he originally wanted me to do, albeit too late. I don't know if he expected me to push back in any way or make excuses, but it was so obvious that, yeah, I was in the wrong. There was nothing I could do but own up to it and apologize. This could have been a lot worse. If he had a different personality, that phone call could have lasted a lot longer and included a lot more anger. I count myself as lucky that he was goal-oriented on this one, and that once the photos were down, he was satisfied. I have to share a couple of examples I've seen in my day that are more fun. But fun in the way you drive by a car on the side of the highway whose engine is on fire, but the people that were in it are safely watching from a distance. I've seen a videographer lose control of a drone and have it crash into a tree, then hold everything up while he had to go get a ladder and retrieve it. One time I was working with another photographer who put their off-camera lighting much closer to the dance floor than I'm personally comfortable doing. I'm always concerned someone's going to accidentally trip over it, but they wanted the light close and they were the primary, so they set it up where they set it up. There were little kids at that wedding, and little kids at weddings do what little kids at weddings do and run around at full speed. Well, one of them smashed right into that stand. The kid wasn't happy about it, but he bounced off it and kept going. That kid's parent was most definitely unhappy and had some words with the photographer. And the one that amuses me the most, I was working with a DJ who everyone discovered was using Spotify because the Spotify ads kept coming up in the middle of his songs. Do you have an example of a time you made a mistake and tried to make it right? Feel free to share in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw in this video, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more, check out this other video I made for you. This is Ask a Wedding Photographer. I'm Seth K, and I'm here to help.